So, excellent. Thanks a lot, Scott. Thanks everyone here for this time. To give you some context to these thoughts here, I've been doing a retrospective on the last engagement that I had with the company I work with, and in this particular engagement, I had a lot more contact with senior managers than I've had in previous engagements. And the more I worked with them, the more I kind of saw a shift that happens. And the conversational shift is basically very simple here. The higher a person advances within the organization, the greater the shift in their priorities. And again, these are just my observations. And so if you see something here that you find really controversial and you want to go, let's save the longer conversations or discussions for the last, there'll be plenty of time for that. But if you have questions or comments, by all means, bring them up. But I kind of like controversy because in disagreement comes new ideas. And so I'm hoping that we could come up with a good conversation after we're finished here. So this is just, again, my retrospective, and it's a basis for having a better conversation with us. So the conversational shift is the higher a person goes in the organization, the more his priorities also shift around. So let's go to the next slide here. So when Larry goes to an organization, I don't know about you guys, but I'm thinking very naively, their first priority is to create value that enhances customers' lives. Okay, great. And so the structure that, of course, I have in my mind is very simple. Get the customer, connect them to a product owner, get that product owner and get integrated with the value stream with the team. They create that product, they check it out with the customer, and it goes around and around, and you have that really super cool dynamic feedback loop that creates value for customers and enhances their lives. That's true. We all know that. So, but the next slide here, you'll see there's the corporate assumption that I was not catching. And you guys are going to go, Lawhead, how could you not have seen this? Well, anyhow, this is it. The corporate assumption is the first priority is protecting the economic health of the organization. And I remember hearing that, and I go, wow, just a second. What does that mean? Well, first of all, you got to have this structure in place, right? You got the CEO, executive vice president, senior vice president, AVPs, the whole thing. Now, Greg Lauerman looks at this and goes, are you kidding me? What are you doing? But this is a reality. This is reality. Larry tries to buck the system. What happens? Nothing happens. You're not going to buck the system. Let's go to the next one. So the question I have is on this next slide is, where in the world do we get the idea that you need such a robust system in order to protect the financial health of a company? And I did a lot of reading last year on what is Harvard Business Review, for example, saying to senior managers, executives. And so I did a full court press. I read as many books as I could on management from the Harvard Business Review that they had, and it was a lot of books. And I've noticed this circle of influence here. For example, McKinsey or Accenture comes up with an idea, and really, excuse me, that could be a whole discussion itself. There is a really interesting book on McKinsey that's recently been written, but the whole point is a big consulting company, McKinsey, Accenture, comes up with an idea. Harvard Business Review picks up on it. And I read that many, many times. They go, McKinsey's saying this and Accenture's saying that. Therefore, we say that. So Harvard Business Review lays it out. And then the senior managers somewhere read it in Harvard Business or in a book or something, and they have an idea. Let's get McKinsey in here to do our leadership training. So leadership training by McKinsey starts. That's a multi-year relationship that takes place. And what often happens is that McKinsey consultant or the Accenture consultant stays on with their organization. The consultant joins the organization, gets McKinsey or Accenture more involved, and that circle just keeps going and going and going. Now, I've often thought naively, well, why don't you, instead of McKinsey, just put Larry at the top of the circle of influence? But here's the deal now, and we're all saying this, right? I'm going to say something that we're all thinking. You know, no manager's ever gotten laid off or fired or moved on or has retired to spend time with his family because he hired McKinsey to do something. But I can see that hiring Larry might be a little more risky. So that is that circle of influence builds a lot of trust, and it's not so much that it has the right answers, but it has the right level of protection for that senior manager's position. So let's go to the next slide here. And so here we're going to dig a little deeper into this. First of all, let's take a look here. I have shift of senior management's priorities, the shifting priorities first. Oh yeah, okay. So let's see, this is a little out of sync here with mine. I'll go down here and pick this up. There it is. Okay, we got it. Yep, we got it. Okay, senior managers. What is then the first priority? The organizational health, the health of the organization's economic health. How in the world does that look? Well, look, you can increase the value of a company through stock buybacks. You can reduce the value of a company through reducing costs, outsourcing, layoffs. You can buy up other companies or products. You can sell them those products in pieces or those companies in pieces. You can create products and services that make money. That is how you protect the economic health of a company. And here, nowhere on this list does it say create value for the end customer. There's a lot of ways that a company can protect its economic health without creating any value for customers at all. That was really quite a shock. The next slide here, let's go to priority 2 that a senior manager sees. And his next priority after the economic health of the organization is his own economic health. In other words, he wants to, of course, climb that ladder as much as possible to give him more influence, to give him more money, and advance his career. The third priority is, of course, and that's where Larry gets involved, right? This is why he asked me to come. Not that we redo the organization, but look, I need to get my projects done on time within budget, or I can't advance in this organization. Now, no one's ever told me that, but digging around, you kind of go, oh, that's why they got me here. So this is where you work at the team level. Great. When things happen, the teams are getting done. Their stuff done on time within budget. And it's marvelous, but there's no way that I'm able to touch that organizational structure or that circle of influence. And then, of course, the fourth priority of that senior managers create products and services that enhance people's lives. So that's way at the bottom. And it's interesting, and I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir here. I'm sure you guys have had these same conversations where you go, okay, I know all this other stuff, but how about creating value? Did what we create really, is the product or service that we pushed out the door last week really creating the value that we anticipated? And many, many times I've heard from our senior managers, I don't know, that's somebody else is tracking that. I'm thinking, what? Anyway, so let's go to the next slide then. And what tools then can we offer? What I say here, I've changed the slide a little bit here to say, what coaching opportunities do we have here then? This, again, I kind of had a shift in my understanding here the more I thought about it. They're not asking me to come to an organization to rewire that organization, to address that whole big, heavy management structure. What they're asking me to do is help get the work done at the team level as quickly and efficiently as possible. So what can I offer? Given that reality, what kind of questions can I offer? Well, let's go look at the second priority of that senior manager. And here's the kind of coaching type questions that I can ask. Well, where are you headed with your life? Yeah, I want to help you advance in the organization. What does that mean for you, Mr. Senior Manager? And completing projects. Let's change the conversation a tad bit through our questions that we ask. Are you happy with the outcome of your project? So this is the Ben Rodowitz effect. You're shifting because he's all about output, right? Are we going to get this done and that? No, let's try to gently bring the conversation back to value. And as I'm sure you've also realized, the more you bring that up and help a senior manager, the more he starts to shift in his thinking about creating value. And then the fourth priority, of course, is another good question we can ask about creating value. To what extent do our products and services, or your products and services, enhance the customer's lives? I brought this up a few times, and you can kind of see there's a little pause that happens in their mind. And what you're doing here is, as a coach, we're sowing seeds. We're not trying to revamp the system. You're working within the system and start asking questions to try to steer or try to direct the conversation in another direction. Let's take a look at then the, let's take a look here. So we're just, and then let's go to the next slide. How to be a servant leader. Yes, okay, good deal. So I've changed this a little bit. I call this the McKinsey effect. And this comes from the books that I read. And so when I read through the Harvard Business Reviews, when it comes to servant leadership, and man, servant leadership is just the thing. If you pick up a book from many of the books that I read had to do with servant leadership. And this is what this is kind of a summary of what you would be reading in any typical Harvard book, Harvard Business Review book. What does that mean? Well, a servant leader asks the following questions in these reports. I need to assess the performance of the people that report to me. So what kind of questions should I ask? Well, did you get your work done? Next question I ask is, well, did they meet my expectations? And so the kind of what they're asking their report is, did you do the work the way I expected? And so they have a conversation about that. And then the next thing is the manager should point out the failures and expect improvement. And then the third is the thing, this is funny, they should offer to help. So create, this concrete advice here is optional. That's really got me upset. But there was hardly any book, I don't remember reading any book that said, oh, by the way, this is kind of how you would coach them. No, they're saying, tell you what, you guys, these are the problems that you have. You got to improve in these areas. If you need any help, let me know, and you walk out the door. The senior manager's gone. The poor guy goes, what? Okay, now what am I supposed to do with this? So the big picture is the manager identifies the problem, suggests a solution, expects incremental improvement. We should recognize and respect this approach. I've tried to talk a senior manager out of these conversations going, are you sure you're asking the right questions here? And well, according to what he's been reading, that circle of influence, yes, he is asking the right questions. Let's take a look here at some coaching opportunities that we might be able to have in this servant leadership conversation. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, our approach, yes. Here's some questions that we might be able to ask in regards to servant leadership. Again, where are you headed with your life? This asks, oh yeah, okay, fine. Then let's work with the senior manager to ask them, hey, instead of asking the guy, did you get your work done, or why didn't you get your work done? How about if you change the conversation a bit, senior manager, and ask your report, are you happy with how much work you finished? And about assessing the expectations, you could ask a question like this, are you satisfied with how you did your work? And then you keep going. Where do you believe you can make improvements? Identify one goal. And then this is key. Where do you believe, as a senior manager, I'm asking my report, where do you believe I can support you more? And then you're identifying then concrete goals that the manager himself could work on to support his reports better. So, and then, yeah, this other one here is, I'll skip over the budget part for now because I don't want to. I left this out in my more recent revisions. So, at any rate, the thing is, change the conversation to what kind of goals do you want to work on to improve Mr. Report, and how can I, as a manager, help you? So you're pointing them towards setting goals instead of the big picture is the manager and report, identify improvements, and report on incremental. Then report on this incrementally. The manager and the report identify improvements. So in the Harvard Business Review or the McKinsey model, it's the manager that's telling the report what they need to do to improve. And here, the manager's more hands-on, working with that report to see how both of them can improve. And I've noticed that if you bring up this conversation, senior managers begin to think a little bit differently. So there is an influence that we can exercise here, or I call it a coaching opportunity. Let's take a look at Let's see, servant leadership. Let's see here. Tools, coaching opportunities here. I'm going to go down to you want to go to the next one here. I'm going to have to, I'll just work off of yours because I'm getting, both of these versions are a little bit out of sync. So the next one is how to be a coach. The next thing that I've been reading about is coaching is coach, coach, coach. So the whole point is here, this McKinsey circle of influence, the big emphasis is that the manager now becomes a coach. And instead of having an outside coach like Larry come and help the team, the big deal is to have seminars and training to help the manager become the coach. So from this perspective, from this circle of influence, what does that mean to be a coach for a senior manager? Again, it's very similar to the servant leadership thing. Identify and communicate areas that need improvement. And then you tell them what they need to do to improve. And then you ask yourself, how about your performance? Did you get your work done? Same questions as a servant leader. And then should we, then you assess your expectations. So are you performing correctly? Are you doing the work the way I want you to do the work? Then we need to identify and agree on improvement benchmarks. And again, the big picture is the same as with the senior leadership. With servant leadership, is the manager identifies the problem, suggests a solution, and expects incremental improvement. Again, we need to recognize and embrace this culture that we're confronted with. Let's go to the next slide. What about the coaching opportunities we have here? Well, how about this? Again, it's just a matter of asking somewhat different questions. And the more we suggest these questions, the more you see, again, a shift happening in the senior manager's understanding it. Okay, how about this? How about if you ask to report, how do you feel about the work you're being done? Same thing, but again, the emphasis is on the individual here. And how about, is my support meeting your expectations? Again, are having these kind of conversations that we know as coaches are beneficial for a company, is going to grow strong teams and help that senior manager accomplish really what he needs to accomplish. And then what is the big picture of the report? Identifies the problem, suggests a solution, and reports on incremental improvement. That's how coaching takes place. And so by asking these questions, we can shift the conversation. Let's go to the next slide. So this is my takeaway here, is not to buck the system. You cannot break through the system and influence. I would so much like to take the Greg Larman approach, where I would say, let's restructure this heavy management thing. And the reason why it's there is that you try to manage uncertainty through robust organizational structures. And that's that. I've had talks with the McKinsey consultants, and I push them on it a little bit, and they won't budge on it. They believe that uncertainty can be managed through robust structures. And there's no way that Larry can bring down that statue. You can't bring this thing down, but you can work with it by looking at these opportunities and then asking questions that bring up doubts or help to redirect the manager's thinking. So respect the path that the manager is on, or the organization is on. Observe and sympathize with their world. And then formulate your questions based on what you see, and then help them see further. And we're not coaching to change them, but help them become what they envision they need to become. That's why you have that first conversation. Where are you headed with your life? And I think if we take this approach as consultants or as coaches, we might be able to influence the organization a bit better. Again, this is just a retrospective I've been going through, but these are kind of some things that with my next engagement, I'm going to keep in mind. Respect that system. Understand that you have this McKinsey effect. Work with that effect, and then formulate your questions in such a way as you kind of help them begin to see that there's a life or a direction or something that they may have been missing. And the whole idea is, what do you want to do as manager? How can I help you get there? Then the manager asks his reports, hey, how happy are you with your work, and how do you want to improve that work? And then the next question is, how as a manager can I help you? And how do you think, how would you assess my help? And having those kind of conversations, I think, will help build stronger teams and help steer the conversation slowly in a direction. So that's my thoughts. That's my until now, the retrospect. I'm still working on this. It's a work in progress.
Thanks, Larry.
But
there's a few questions.
Go ahead.
Not surprisingly, there's a few questions. Kim's got his hands up, and I want to come back to Alan's question in the chat, but we'll start with Kim.
Yeah, I had thanks for the feedback. I might be doing some contract work and trying to figure out if somebody calls me to come in to be an Agile coach, and what would I do? And so I think this deck will help me out. But I'm thinking if I'm going to be putting on my catalyst hat and trying to figure out what I want to do, I'm going to be thinking about what they want. What does the business want? What does the business value want? Versus I'm going to be throwing them on an Agile journey. I'm going to try to figure out what they need for why they want to make this change and why they want to go with a different approach to workforce management. And I'm not going to be following their lead. And maybe this presentation will help that start that conversation. But I really think we have to have that catalyst approach in terms of what do they really need. We think we know what they need, but what do they really need
Yes.
to know? And then we have to go from there and sort of, well, this is what we can do to offer some benefits and stuff like that. And lead the conversation that way, because if I come in with preconceived notions of what I think they need, I don't think that's going to work as well as trying to figure out what they need. Optimizing goal. Well, like Lawman would say, what is the optimizing goal of the business? What do they want? I think we have to approach it that way versus what we can actually sell them. What do they really need? And that's my my 2 cents on that. The catalyst approach. I think that's so important. I'm trying to apply that where I work. Try to be that catalyst. Try to figure out that manner. Where's he coming from? His thinking, so I can actually help him and figure out his sympathize with what's happening with their side and the business. The catalyst approach, I think, is really important.
For sure. I see Alan's question in the chat, and then Ben's hands after that. So, Alan, do you want to read that off or rephrase it? I see it in chat.
Yeah. So, the question that came up after I had to think for a while. So, Larry, you'd gone way past the first couple of slides already, but I had to think about it.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. You're fine. It's just that I had to have time to process. So I'm asking if you're proposing that the CEO and upper executives, you had that wonderful branching pyramid there. Should they actually be concerned about value? Are you saying they should be concerned about value instead of concerned about corporate health?
This is great. I'm glad you brought this up because it's super important. There is an economic value. The economic model that we're working with, as you know, is supply side economics. Milton Friedman's neoliberal economic model, and that is very clear that a corporation's responsibility is to make money. And so, you need to respect that. Now, yes, of course they need to. But the point is, and this is where the economic model doesn't go far enough. This is where Milton Friedman, and I respect him deeply, but he didn't go far enough, because you can't have a valuable or an organization that makes money if you're not creating valuable products and services that enhance people's lives. So there's that little section that's missing from that economic understanding. Yes, we need to have strong businesses that are strong financially, but you're not going to get there through this is Larry speaking now, but this is my little soapbox. You're not going to get there through this robust corporate structure. And this is interesting because if you look at the whole idea, anti-fragility, which is another argument, but the whole point is you can't manage uncertainty. You can't manage a complex adaptive system through a robust management process. It won't work because you can't ever get robust enough. So you have to embrace change. That's the whole point of agility, right? So I agree. Getting back to, yes, corporations need to make money. But how do you make money? Well, you ultimately, long-term, make money by creating products and services that enhance people's lives. So I hope that answers your question. But I'm totally on board with
it sort of answers the question. It sort of answers the question, but in today's standard business, and maybe the standard business is the dysfunction. So, we can go that direction, VCs and stock prices and stock buybacks and how bad maybe all that is. But the reality is, if I'm the CEO of even just a 1,500 or so person company, I'm going to be spending a lot of time looking at mergers and acquisitions. I'm going to be spending a lot of time looking at where do we invest funds, or we get a lot of profit, or we don't have a lot of profit, and how do I go get financing if I need some financing to what, there's all kinds of things that I have to do or pay attention to that is not directly connected to value creation. And I think a major part of the dysfunction is if let's just say I'm a senior VP, lots of senior VPs want to pay attention to value creation when they should be paying attention to other things that is more appropriate at their level, like curation of the environment and how are our policies affecting value creation. But they spend a lot of time telling Agile coaches, hey, do it this way. And so I think you're calling out a really interesting discussion here, but I also think it's a mistake to say that somebody in a 2,000 person company that's a senior VP, or somebody in a 20,000 or 200,000 person company, senior VP, that they should be spending time looking at creation value. They should be able to trust the people in their downstream organization, down level, I don't know what the term is, to be able to create value well. And the exception is something is really wrong and we've got to pull you in to help us make value better. There's a balance here.
Yeah. I was just as you were speaking, and I don't want to steal the conversation because we want to move on to Ben's question, but just think of Steve Jobs. Again, everybody goes back to Steve Jobs, right? And I'm sorry for rehashing that, but he got involved in thinking ahead. How can we create value for our customers? So he was mentally engaged in that, and look at how innovative that company was. Now, granted, not every company can do that, and I perfectly understand what you're saying, Alan, because I've had that very conversation that you brought up with managers, and that's true. But again, the bottom line is for us, for any company, if you're not creating value, you will sooner or later run out of options because you're not selling stuff. If you're not selling stuff, you're not making money. Now, again, like I said, there's all kinds of ways of making money, sure, but long term, if you want to stick around, you're going to continue making product, goods, and services that enhance people's lives. That's just how it works. But yeah, I agree with everything you said. Because you got these two things that a executive has to keep in mind. But I'm personally convinced that if your company doesn't create value, goods, and services that enhance your customers' lives, you will sooner or later run out of options. You're not right. The health of your company is going to take an impact. At least I think so.
Yeah, I have so much more I could say about this, but maybe other people have things to say.
It's a really good conversation, but that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up.
Ben, do you still have your virtual hand up?
Well, it was just a comment back on what Kim said, and he's left. But when he was talking about identifying the value, that just resonated with why I like the business outcome start to path to agility. I was going to say that's why that seems to resonate, because that helps with that initiative. That was all.
Okay, thanks. Appreciate that. All right. I know, by the way, Richard, you haven't necessarily asked the question, but you put a few things in chat that I thought were worth noting. You want to comment on that for the group?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everybody. I'm Richard Crazy Thunder. I was in one of Scott's most recent classes here. I did a 3 for the teams, the organization, and the essentials. So I'm happy to be here. Yeah, this is a really great presentation, Larry. I know it. Just to get it out there, would you be willing to share that with any of us, or is that you consider that kind of proprietary and personal?
Oh no, not at all, man. This is just Larry's retrospective. So take what you want, or I'll be happy to help you with it.
Yeah, if you could share, because I was sitting here, I was like, I wish I had screenshotted all this stuff, but if you could just share the deck with us, or if anything, me, that would be great. I would love to use this and take it back and integrate it with my team here. So yeah, going back when you're talking about the Harvard Business Reviews and you're giving that example, it reminded me of very expert and achievery, right? Particularly the expert, which is where Harvard and the consultancies are trying to convince the people who will buy their services to say, you can fix it. So we're going to tell you in your echo chamber that you are the one to save the day. You're the superhero. And I think maybe by telling them that, we can get them to see behind the veil, to see kind of like the Wizard of Oz, right? To see, hey, these people are telling you this, but it's a little tainted to their favor, right? So there is value in seeing it this way because sometimes you need it, but it's not the end all be all. And I think maybe that's the way to get into the door, so you're not confrontational initial, to be like, hey, the way you've been doing it is wrong. Or it's more like there's another way or more tenets to it instead of just you take the lead like a military commander. Because we're not in the military. You can't force your people to do it. And the end result to being very I and ego expert centric as a leader is you get churn. People leave.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. No doubt about it.
And the second one that I said here was, talking about back to Alan's question about the value, is I was just saying that, like as a leader, my understanding, right, I love history and I'm a veteran myself, is that, the metaphor is that a ship's captain, right, is concerned with all of those things. They have to be aware and on the ball for the ship's health, the state of the cargo, right, because the purpose of a ship is to transport something from one spot to another over water, as well as verifying that the navigator has got the right course and to ensure that they are sailing still towards a safe harbor. The captain has to be aware of all of that. Now, he's not micromanaging it, so he's plugged into his secondaries and his lieutenants, but he still maintains a very active, proactive level of engagement with the people who he's relying on to keep the ship safe. But he still has to be aware of it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah. Yeah, you guys are stirring the pot at the right end of for my mind, there is a lot more that a CEO has to take into consideration. So my beef is, and maybe I need to open up a bit more based on the conversation we're having here, but I can't escape the idea that if a company's not creating value for their end customer, how long is that company going to really be around? And I understand all these little pieces that you're talking about have to also be the CEO is responsible for it. The ship, he's responsible for the whole ship. The oil change, however it takes, or however it looks, the speed of the ship, plus the cargo and all the other things you mentioned. So yeah, there is a lot more going on there.
I had a question or comment to add similar to that, and that is you mentioned Larman, and one thing that really struck me that Craig Larman said in this class was, like, until the bonus structure and how they're awarded is made transparent to the org, you never really know what's happening, right? Because you're optimizing for what your assumptions are. Like your case, like, yeah, we're trying to make a great product. Like, no, this guy's actually trying to get project X executed because that's on his professional development plan. If he does that, he'll get a $60,000 bonus. So he could care less.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not going to hurt him that we didn't generate value in 2024. If we're a leader in our space, or we're top 3, we can probably ride that out. And by the time those chickens come home to roost, I might be long gone anyways, because I just got that opportunity for, executive VP at another company. So there's a little bit like this organization. I think Larma would call it dysfunction. You can call it what you want, but one, I think that's clear, and it just came up with the company that's asking for training, and they're like, what are all the things you can do? And we're talking about all that, and they just feel like over eager, because we say, well, some of this is you would wait to do some of this until later, or you would train some and then coach, and then one of the people mentioned more on the side, like, well, but our bonuses are kind of riding on getting all this training done. Like, oh, so right? What do? You train them when they're not quite ready and work with them in that way? We're going to say, no, you shouldn't do that. And this person's bonuses, I can tell you right now what that person's going to do if I say, we won't do that because we don't think it's best for your people. And all of them, this is all the departments, all their bonuses are lost. I can tell you what they're going to do. They're going to go on Google, search for Agile training. And so I feel like it's a bit of I like what you're saying, Larry, because I feel like it's a reality check. I think this is my opinion, and this might be a rough crowd to say that. Sometimes Agilists can be a little bit idealistic. And right. And I've been there a few times when we don't get met with client appreciation because someone's saying basically a very nice version of, well, that's dumb, right? But what we say is that's not Agile, but it comes across as that's stupid, right? And so now we lose the chance to influence. Anyways, I'll leave it at that. Ben, I saw your index.
The idea of transparency in bonuses and the like. Very, very early on in my career, we had an interesting opportunity to try to build something new, and it needed contributions from a bunch of P&L areas. And one VP said, my bonus is based on my P&L, and I am not going to take money out to fund a research project.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, localized optimization, right? I mean, self-interest still pervades, and I think this is a way we could try to make these things better. And I think and Larry, what I like is it's a chance still. If people find themselves in this kind of environment, context, you're probably more likely to be successful based on what Larry's proposing than to have a staunch resistance towards that. Dino, your hands up?
Yeah, hands up. Great content, Larry. Thank you for sharing all that. I like to agree as well, and adding to what you just said as far as enhancing customer lives. This is basically product evolution and product innovation, which is around Clayton Christensen's theory from MIT. He recently passed away. Is continue evolving, continue innovating. So therefore, you don't leave room for disruption from your competitor as well, right? So leaving room for a competitor to come in and disrupt you, which is a big theory around disruption, might derail your P&L at the end of the day. So therefore, enhancing customer lives through innovation, product innovation is key here to this whole theory. And yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. It really keeps me up. Yeah, I've had,
Hands up again, Richard.
I agree.
Yeah, just real quick, Scott, what you said there reminded me immediately of that video we watched about purpose, the animation video, and how they said there at the end that for knowledge-based and complex work, monetary reinforcement is not it's not an effective behavior-based leadership modifier, right? And what you said there is you don't get discretionary effort. You get an MVP of that because money's not the issue. It's more about freedom and quality of work and all of that. So what you just said there reinforces that. They don't care about anything else. They just want to hit their numbers so they get their money.
Yeah, exactly. Interesting.
I'm going to put the second to most recent slide deck in for everyone, so that you'll have this version on there. And then Larry, if you want to post yours or send it to me, and I can try to send it back out. But
yeah, I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Let's take a look.
Here we go. It's in. Oh, it's not a supported format. Okay. I
have to export it to PowerPoint. That's probably was a mistake.
Or PDF.
I'll do that.
I didn't know Zoom limited us there. Which, just as a general comment, by the way, everyone, I told Larry, like, get ready. You might get really beat up on. and the response has been really great, because I appreciate that Larry's bringing up his own truth about what his experience, even if it's counter to like the status quo pervasive vibe out there about what we do as Agilists. And I appreciate that. Yeah. It's challenging thought work.
Well, none of us must work for Accenture or McKinsey.
Okay.
It's like have a safe passing party and don't have any SPCs there, you know.
Some of us might have used to work with.
I worked for Accenture.
Yeah.
I'm not asking for anybody to show us their case.
Hey, by the way, I was sharing this with Scott. I met a friend of mine. I worked at KPMG for a while, and a friend of mine that I got to know there pretty well was a senior vice president at a Fortune 500 company here in Orange County, and that particular organization of that company that he was in charge of was losing money, and so they asked him to come and fix this mess. And because he comes from an Agile kind of a background, and he did something super radical because he could. He was a senior vice president, right? So he lays off most of that middle layer. He lays off his vice presidents. He lays off his some managers and directors and AVPs. He cleaned it all up. He said he kept a couple around for various reasons. And then he started to implement that thing where I said, this is Larry's assumption. He began to implement those value streams, and his division started making money. So you do get that rare moment where you get a guy in a position of a lot of influence that can kind of clean it up. But now, man, did I have a great conversation with him, as you can imagine. I go, whoa, where have you been, man? But barring that, you've got this reality that you have to deal with, and that's kind of the takeaway from my retrospective is how does Larry, or how can I in the future recognize this environment and slowly coach within it?
for those who have run into those big consulting firms, I would say at least half of our Agile adoptions, one of those groups was in there as well, and very close to us. But if you're interested in some insights in that, you can go on the Reddit on the consulting forum. And some of those are named, but boy, you hear what's really going on. It's the people, because they have anonymity, and they'll just say, here's what, especially if you look for Agile, these people have no idea what they're doing, but they know that, and they're just winging it. Anyways, it's interesting food for thought. I would also add, just on the reality check, is, we've done our work at certain companies, and we are no longer there. The big five are still there.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's kind of the truth. Is like, well, how do we play alongside and play well with them, et cetera, and that's probably some things to learn from that as well.
Their gravitas makes them sticky.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. There's I mean, my earliest corporate experience was Accenture came into this massive whole change effort. The person leading that then went on board, just like Larry had said, then got promoted, and then I think somehow got the position where they got acquired by Pacificare. And like, well, that worked out, and then he went off and started his own thing. But it's almost like just what Larry was describing of how that played out, watching that happen to a large organization in 13 different states. Interesting. All right. Any other comments, questions for Larry?
No, I would just say thank you, Larry, for sharing this, because it's an interesting idea that I, like the numbers were in my head, but I never made the equation, and you brought the equation. So thank you.
That's good. Yep.
Yeah, this is great. Yeah, thank you, Larry. Sincerely, I know you put work in this. We had several meetings reviewing it. I really thought you'd be brought to the group, and the feedback's been really great. So thank you very much. All right, everyone. We'll hopefully see you again at the next alumni group. Will everyone go? Hope you guys get together in SoCal. Everyone else, we'll see you soon.
Have a great weekend.
See ya.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, you guys.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Cheers, everyone.